Huck's a little tired right now. She's been running around like a crazy girl, huh, Huck? Yeah. We've been racing around the house. She likes to play this game where I kind of pretend to chase her, and then she'll get down on her front paws and bob her head back and forth, a fake growl, run in circles. So that's her way for getting exercise and playing with me. I think if she had a little brother or little sister, that's the way she'd play. Oh, that's a good girl. And so I've been gone for a while today, so I came home and she just went crazy. Come on, Dad, let's play. So the last 5 minutes we've been running around. Yeah, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yes, sir. So that's Huck. And Huck is a Great Pyrenees, 3.5 years old. It's her channel. This is Huck TV. She goes, Dad, hey, don't you like my cape? Oh, yeah. That's actually a life preserver I put on when we go out on the water. Thanks for being here. She's going to hang out for a while. One thing I wanted to ask you, how many people have seen Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State? Well, I will implore upon you to please, please, please. Oh yeah, we're all here, Huck. Please put an online review at Amazon.com. That's where everyone goes to read the reviews. We need them bad. I can't believe we only had 4 as of a few days ago. Compared with American Sasquatch, it had 50 at this time. And I know thousands of people have watched this film. I just don't understand why they're not leaving reviews. Anybody can leave a review on Amazon. All you do, log into your Amazon account, look for a segment that says leave a review, and you leave a review. It's pretty easy. Anybody can that has an account. Even if you haven't watched it there. Friends, this is going to be a little different segment. This is going to be video number 2 about the disappearance of Captain Garland Hanson out of Wart Smith Air Force Base in Northeast Michigan. Now, Dave, why did you want to do a second video on this? Because I'm trying to hammer home a point here. So, Northeast Michigan. Just like it implies, Northeast Michigan. This is Wart Smith Air Museum. That's where the Air Force Base was. It closed. But it was open for decades. And Captain Hanson took off from there and was headed to New York over Lake Huron. Now, as many of you know, Oscoda is south, Tawas City is south, Greenbrush is north, and then all through this area of Northeast Michigan, we've been covering disappearances. Right through the middle up here, and along the coast, and offshore in the water area. So I did a little research. And I was blown away, folks. I was actually blown away. Now, way before anybody knew I was doing a second video, and in fact, way before anybody knew I was doing the first video, I got a very, very interesting email from someone about this area. They didn't know I was doing anything about Wart Smith. It's like hooky spooky stuff that I got this. And I got this just as I was preparing to film the first video on this segment. Here's what it says, and it's a good one, folks. Sit down, drink your coffee, tea, whatever other indulgence you may have. Put your feet up. Almond croissant, sesame seed cupcake would be nice. Anyhow, here's what it says. Hey, Dave. Hope you and Huck are doing good today. I just wanted to stop and let you know me and my grandpa's UFO story. We have a log cabin on the beach of Lake Huron just outside Oscoda near Wart Smith Air Force Base in an area called Greenbrush. I just showed you that on the map. It's between Oscoda and Harrisville on the east shore of the lower Michigan. We're always out at the beach when these things have happened. My grandpa's 87 today, and was a very detailed, meticulous man. As an owner-operator of a tool and die business in Belleville, he was keen on specifics and tolerances. He didn't make mistakes. Very, very sharp and honest man. First, 1996, he and my dad saw it come out of the water and said it was as big as a football stadium. I then watched it split in two balls of light, and then they raced across the sky, skipping like stones on the water across the sky at an incredibly fast speed. They looked like two stars just jumping from star to star, aside each other at random. 2022, started seeing them regularly. They'd come out of the water north-northeast from Canada, in the direction of Drummond Island. Oh, we've talked about Drummond Island. If you didn't notice, it would make you think it's just a star and not pay any attention. But when we watch them incrementally move from horizon to sky, some light up the water when it's dark enough. They move oscillating motion, elliptical circles in one area, and give off multiple colors and brightness. They line the coast just about 5 miles out, 2,000 to 4,000 feet up when displaying. Hold your taters. Remember, Captain Hanson disappeared when he was at 2,500 feet. I've seen on 2 occasions, now remember, I swear to you, I did not get this when I made that video. I got it about a day earlier. He had no idea what I was going to write to you, what I was going to propose to you in Hanson, and gave you the facts. I've seen on 2 occasions a red orb that looks like a red light at a stop signal with amber colored fire moving. Moves as slow as a drone up the beach, moving from north to south, silently. As they get closer, as I'm watching, they divert and head southeast over the lake until becoming unseen. This is Lake Huron. Once there was a large light on the water horizon, multiple smaller lights going to the horizon aside the big light, and then taking off going up one after the other. When they became 3 o'clock looking directly from the shore, the air and water started vibrating, a low vibration. We felt it in our bones. In the sand, the air, my grandpa was extremely worried and told me let's get back inside, and I wanted to get closer to the water, and he insisted for me to stop and come back into the fire. Multiple occasions, red lights lining the horizon, slowly pulsating. 3 times we've seen Black Hawk helicopters with men inside, the back with guns flying out from south to north up the shore 300 feet up. Multiple times I've seen A-10 Warthogs scrambled over the lake, as well as flying over the cabin. Many times regularly see smaller points of light, sometimes hundreds flying overhead in random directions. A small glittery cluster that starts like sparkle emits small points of light that fly out away over the lake, seeming to be just outside orbit or just inside but not far enough to be distant stars. Found dead deer parts on property scattered near the cabin, just random parts, but there's no hunters. Broken tree limbs set neatly aside the garage from a small pine tree intentionally broke off. I was alone. There's more, but I won't take up any more of your time. Oh, come on, give us more. Goodbye for now, Dave. Been watching you for a while now and appreciate your hard work and especially your recent workups on Michigan. You're absolutely right. Michigan is home to some of the weirdest disappearances and is a very strange place. It has to be the water in the woods. Plenty of it here for sure. That plane, N50935, I was thinking, if it's not at the bottom of some small lake, a dark water one, then it must be in some place as a Cessna carrying 55 in the fighter jet. Could be the Michigan Triangle like the Bermuda Triangle. There could be multiple places on the planet. We will know the truth after this life. Thanks, Dave, from me and my grandpa and my mom. Thank you. So after I did the video on the missing jet fighter, or the missing training jet, I decided I'm going to do a little homework for you. And I decided that I'm going to look up and see if there's any UFO sightings around Ascota. Oh yeah, March 11th, 2024. North-northwest sky, 45-degree angle. Estimated speed 150 miles an hour. Narrative: stunningly well-defined ball of white, green, and red-colored lights as it was falling. Witnessed by myself with no others, stepping out of my house at 10:11 p.m. Lower Michigan, to go to the garage and noticed a rapidly falling ball of light. The colors of red, green, and white were stunning, bright, and clear. Approximately 50 degrees with clear sky, no wind, a good night for stargazing. The quick fall lasted a second. I'm a former photographer, darkroom tech who knows the difference between 1/1000th of a second and 1/250th. The white lights seemed to be brighter than the red and the green, but the red and the green were not dim by any means. I almost called 911 because of the unusual configuration and clearness of the object. The ball of light did not fade in or fade out, more akin to a light switch as it was falling. The background was clear sky, no moon visible, stars clearly visible, including Polaris. The Big Dipper clearly visible, but there was no problem visualizing the red and green colors within the circle shape. The colors were opaque and clear. No sound was heard. This was on the National UFO Reporting Center website. April 17th, 2020, Oscoda, Michigan, circle. Out with a dog. Looked up and around, clear sky, looked southwest, say light. Continue to watch it, goes northeast, no sound, no blinking light. Took a right turn going over Lake Huron, slow turn. Did not move like a jet, and I still heard no sound. I've seen lots of planes overhead, but not like this, ever. July 8th, 2016, Oscoda, Michigan. Two bright orbs over Lake Huron, Oscoda. Almost like a dogfight playing around, anti-gravity maneuvers. Two bright orbs over the lake. My brother and I went outside to have a smoke, and in Oscoda it gets really dark. We see a jet passing overhead like usual, then it all happened. Two bright orbs chasing each other over the lake. 3 times and then in 10 to 12 second intervals. It was like a jet dogfight with no noise and making anti-gravity turns at extreme speeds. It stopped on a dime and made a crazy turn. Now, I saw something like this when I was in my early 20s, Northern California, Southern Oregon, camping with some friends. There is the key. Something flying across the sky comes to a dead stop. No, we have nothing that can do that. And then immediately makes a turn. I've seen this only once in my life. And I was with a couple of veterinary doctors, students. We were stunned. We watched it for an hour, like 5 of them fly around. What this person's experiencing and describing is real because I've heard it from many people and I've seen it. Stopped on a dime, made a crazy turn. No jet on Earth can maneuver this way. We've seen these two orbs chasing each other. They looked very high in the sky, above our atmosphere. It has changed my life. We still can't believe what we've seen with our eyes. I get you. Now remember, this is all happening around Wordsmith. July 7th, 2015. Oscoda, Greenbush, and Harrisville. Bright orange light balls that formed a V, and then we lost sight of them. Sunday night, July 5th, 2015. Heading north on Highway 23 through Oscoda towards Harrisville. My son and I pulled over into a parking lot somewhere between 10 and 10:30 p.m. to watch the last of the fireworks we could see going off over Lake Huron. While watching the fireworks, we noticed a bright light orange ball in the sky heading towards us and northward, going very steady, not too fast, but parallel to Highway 23. It was basically between us and the parking lot and the road as it went over and past us. We had our windows rolled down, and though there were some fireworks noise, we didn't hear any noise from the orange object, though it went right over us. After the fireworks ended, we got back on Highway 23 heading north. In about 5 miles, suddenly the orange glowing ball came from the east, which was Lake Huron side, and crossed the road ahead of us flying west. Then 2 more came across closer together. A fourth one was back some distance, following the other three. Can you imagine this? Seeing this? We didn't see what the first ball did, but the second and third, after crossing the highway a short distance and where we could still see them above the trees, started to slow, then hover. They waited until the fourth orange ball caught up and joined them. The number 2 orange ball was in front, number 3 on the right, number 4 took up the left side. So they formed this V, and then they continued going northwest. So they weren't a solid object. 4 different objects, but then they got together and formed this formation. We had pulled over on the shoulder and had our windows rolled down some. No noise was heard, and also all of these orange light balls did a bit of pulsing in brightness, getting a bit brighter then dimmer as they went along. There were no red, green, or white lights whatsoever, nor any blinking lights. We'd love to know what these things are. If they are top secret, I guess we won't ever be told. But we'd love to have an answer as to what looks like these at night flying and continue to do this sort of thing. Couldn't be planes, balloons, or helicopters. We've heard those before. Oscoda, Michigan, July 4th, 2014. Saw a fiery ball traveling north along Lake Huron shoreline. My wife and I saw a fiery ball moving up the Lake Huron shoreline July 4th, approximately 9:30 p.m. My guess to how high is about 3 miles. The incident lasted 5 minutes till the distance of the object reached its vanishing point. This is not my first time seeing strange phenomena in North America. When I started to get into this, and I figured out how many UFO sightings were around here, I couldn't believe it. August 29th, 2011, Oscoda, Michigan. Light over Oscoda. My wife and myself, along with our boys, watched a bright orange to whitish colored light move from the northwest to the southeast toward Lake Huron. It did a zigzag pattern. Another key point. Planes and helicopters don't zigzag like that. And then it disappeared behind a small cloud. A couple of minutes later, it reappeared over the lake, heading due north. It went out of sight again, and from the southwest, 2 fighter jets were just seen flying due west, then turned north over Lake Huron. February 15th, 1964, Oscoda. Lights on object, aura or haze around object, left a trail, aircraft nearby. We saw the object so many times we get used to them. Now listen carefully. I was stationed as a security officer at Wurtsmith Air Force Base, which is a SAC installation. Let me explain, this was not one sighting, but many, all at night, except one which I will use in another form to explain. I was guarding an alert-ready B-52 with 2 H-bombs in its bay. We often looked up into the night sky because it was very dark and we were able to view many stars. It was a round object about 2,000 feet over the aircraft. It was very bright and appeared to hover for about 5 minutes. Then it took off in what seemed like the speed of light. 1 minute it was there, the next it was gone. We never reported these because we felt that they would think we were making them up. However, they were aware of the objects because one time they sent 2 F-104 fighter jets after them. Guess it didn't help because they kept coming back. Now, let me explain something. To get a note like that from a security officer is not unusual. And why do you say that, Dave? Well, if you watch Missing 411 The Hunted, I read to you a series of UFO reports that came out of various military installation sites in Wyoming. They were reported by a series of security officers who saw UFOs hovering over ICBM sites. This is not unusual, folks. Okay, carry on now. So the next time, I pulled up reports from Greenbrush. Again, the next town over from Wordsmith. July 20th, 2019. We had a bonfire on the shores of Lake Huron, looked up for stars, and noticed two lights traveling northbound at a 20-degree angle, approximately 30,000 feet. Saw multiple pairs like these traveling different directions, making stops and speeding off, combining together like a skipping stone. Thick fog covered our sight for about 10 seconds. Another key point, like skipping stones. In my most recent movie, I talked about UFOs doing exactly this around Mount Rainier. Yes, I did. Missing 411, National Parks, Washington State. Watch it on Amazon. Greenbrush, Michigan, August 14th, 2011. Orange globes hovering over Greenbrush. My wife and I spotted 20 to 25 orange globes rising into the night sky. We were on the Lake Huron beach in Greenbrush, looking north. The globes rose to the horizon one at a time or in groups of 2 to 3. As they rose, they traveled to the east over the lake towards Canada, eventually disappeared into the night sky. It was certainly an orchestrated maneuver of some sort from the alien society, or the U.S. Air Force was secretly invading the hostile country of Canada. The person has a good sense of humor. Okay. Now, just south of Wordsmith is Tawas, Tawas. Oh, I know, I probably mispronounced it. Sorry. Here are the sighting reports. August 4th, 2018, East Tawas. Orange fireball seen in cloud-covered sky. In East Tawas, there's a state pier. And in order to get my steps in, obviously an Apple fan, I decided to go for a walk on it. When I first started my walk, I noticed an orange-colored star way out by the point of the bay and thought it was just that, a planet or star. As I reached the end of the dock, I realized it was the only star I had seen the whole time and decided to see which star it was within an app on my phone called Skyview. But there was no name for it. I thought it was odd and realized it was even more odd because there was a cloud cover which didn't let me see a single light in the sky except that one. I stayed longer and took as good a picture of it as I could with my phone and decided to walk home. The weight of the dock has made it, as it is, it has corners offering different viewpoints of the bay, and I noticed as I was walking back, this object stayed in exactly the same spot. And I was viewing a different angle of it because it was not moving with me, like a normal object in space. I watched it until I got off the dock, when at this point I glanced down to mess with my phone, and upon viewing back to where I saw the object, it was gone. The object appeared to be a perfect sphere and was a fiery orange color. I was viewing this against the black sky that was filled with clouds, making it the only light in the sky. Many times, if you focus, sometimes I've done this. I'm sitting in the woods and I'll find a big branch of a tree. And if I think something's odd, I'll look at that branch and I'll put that object right on that corner of the branch, let's say. And I'll watch it for 5 minutes. It should move because the earth is moving. If that thing stays in one spot, you got something odd. February 24th, 2014, East Tawas. It appears as if there were 3 craft moving roughly southwest. The sound was what I initially noticed because we are not near a large airport. The lights were bright orange, looked like a fireball. One of the crafts had a burst of fire traveled a distance, another fireball traveled a distance, and a third fireball. It almost looked like it was using thrusters. The bursts of light were 10 times brighter than you would see on a commercial aircraft when its white light is blinking. That's pretty weird. July 30th, 2012, Tawas City. Red ball in the sky. Taking a picture from my outside home's front door, I had looked out my bedroom window and saw this light on in a cabin that was old where no one lived in. So I had to go outside for a better look. Thinking, what is going on? I walked back in and got my camera out. Was trying to take a picture of this cabin with the light on, and this big red ball got in the way of what I was trying to take the picture of. It was like it was trying to be in the photo. I would move away from it in the lens and it would be back in frame. Something similar to this. At the Montana Vortex, they have this house of mystery. Sometimes on tours they get 20 people in there. You can't see this with just your eyesight. But with a camera, you can see a ball of light that is in there sometimes. And Joe has said that when people talk about it, it tends to make an appearance. And people have taken pictures of it sitting on top of a broom, sitting in a chair, doing things that are completely abnormal. But Joe, the owner of the Vortex, has stated, it's weird, David, it's like it responds to human thought and speech. Kind of like this was trying to block the lens of the camera. August 1st, 1991, Tawas City, Oval. Close encounter on Monument Road, Tawas City near Corsair. Craft nearly filled the sky between the pines. Very large, very close. I was driving on Monument Road towards East Tawas around the Corsair cross-country skiing area around 1:30 a.m. While driving above tall pines, I could see a spotlight shining above the trees, crossing the roadway ahead. My first thought was the typical helicopters, which my dad always said it was the Department of Natural Resources, that we would see with these spotlights at night in Tawas City. As I drove closer, the light was larger and brighter than normal. I've seen before from a helicopter. I began to slow down and stare through my windshield. As I was coming upon it, was almost underneath, I could tell it was coming from the right to the left as the beam of light was getting brighter. When the front end of the craft appeared in the opening of the roadway above the trees by approximately 200 yards, I realized this was not a helicopter. I pushed my clutch in and pulled over to the side of the road. The entire front end of the craft was in the spotlight. The best analogy I can give it is it looks similar to Battlestar Galactica in the first Star Wars movie. It was very large and I was almost directly under it. I pulled over, rolled down my window and looked almost directly up at it. It was moving gracefully and slowly across the opening in the roadway. The sound was a sound of a light to medium hum, almost like the sound of it going through the air. There wasn't a rumble of an engine sound. It sounded like when your furnace kicks on, so you can hear the air blowing through the vent, except louder. I remember thinking that this thing was huge. Thoughts going through my mind were, this isn't a helicopter. What kind of plane is this? When I realized the entire front end, which was flattened, was the spotlight. I then looked for wings and there weren't any. I was moving slowly as well. I've been in plenty of planes and currently live near an airport, and I know a plane moving that slow isn't possible. No, it's not. At any rate, when I realized it wasn't a plane, around 1/3 to 1/2 of it was above me, with the rear still hidden at the treetops to the right side. I then said to myself, scan this out, and I started scanning all over it with my eyes. The middle had a slowly pulsating red light. There were many smaller white lights around the perimeter, equally spaced, I guess at around 20 to 30 yards each. There were roughly 4 to 5 lights around the longer sides of the oval and the spotlight in front. After looking at the lights, I started to look at what was under the body of the craft. There was stuff, again, like the Battlestar Galactica, whereas there were tons of protruding parts all over the place. At this time, I realized I was out in the middle of nowhere by myself. Yeah, you might be starting to get a bit worried. When I thought that I was alone in the middle of the woods, and when I noticed the darkness of the woods, I got very scared, like a monster was about to come out of the woods and get me. The scared, terrified feeling is like you get as a kid and almost become unable to move. I remember locking my door and, oh, that's going to help. And reaching to roll up the window, oh, that'll stop him. And begin shifting into first gear. As I was rolling up the window, I continued to watch it. The front end was almost now out of sight, and the rear end just broke out from above the trees on the right side. I just started to release the clutch and roll the car when the craft changed its speed. It originally had to be going no faster than 25 to 35 miles an hour, taking into consideration the distance. When it sped up, it doubled, tripled its speed. I looked forward and shifted into second gear just as I saw car lights coming around the bend. Just as I was pulling off the shoulder of the road, I figured they had to see this. I began to slow down and they flew by going normal speeds. I hit my brake lights to see if they would hit theirs, and no. They were gone. I drove home, told my dad about it. He laughed and said it was probably a DNR helicopter. I know what I saw. I had time to evaluate it. It moved slowly. It wasn't DIR. It did not have wings. It was not a helicopter unless there is one that is of this size, and it didn't have an engine sound. When I stretch my arms out, I can measure the width of this was approximately a distance of my hands being apart of 1.5 feet. Extend that angle out to the length of the pines, then add around 100 yards above that, and that's the width. Length was the length of the entire view of the sky, which had been seen across the roadway, then minus about 20 yards or so. When the front was about 20 yards from being hidden from the trees on the left-hand side, only then did I recognize the rear come out of the treetops on the right side of the road. It continued at its slow pace until it was around 1/2 out of view. Total time viewing the front of the craft until it was gone, approximately a minute. I just closed my eyes and replayed the event, and it was probably very close to 30 seconds. Very scary feelings. I think that's pretty impressive, folks. July 16th, 1975, East Tawas. In the late 70s, my wife and I observed various unexplainable light formations along a 100-mile stretch of I-75 south in Michigan. In the late 70s, my wife and I observed various unexplainable light formations along a 100-mile stretch. I believe no one can believe in UFOs unless and or until they have a personal experience with them. On a warm summer night along I-75 between East Tawas and Flint, Michigan, we had a close encounter. I happened to glance to my right, looking past my wife through the passenger window at a brilliant white light in the western horizon. I brought it to her attention, but thinking it was a planet, we continued on. Suddenly it appeared looming just outside her window. Frightened, she slid down in the seat. When I pulled the car onto the shoulder, slowing to a stop, she put her head down under the dash, and I looked up through the windshield as it slowly started moving overhead. I would say more than 1,000 feet above us, circular turquoise lights on both ends, with a rectangular pattern of strobe lights underneath, flashing from side to side. We jumped out of the car and tried to bring the phenomena to the attention of passerbys to no avail. Then it disappeared, but then reappeared on the eastern horizon as 3 bright red-green lights. These lights began dancing in an irregular pattern all over the sky, then vanished. We got back into the car and continuing on further down the freeway, passing diagonally overhead, was a formation of 4 oval-shaped, pearliest white lights in a cross shape moving in unison very high in the sky. We never saw the physical shape of the aircraft, only the outline shapes of the white light formations. The first formation passed overhead was oblong in shape, round on both ends, flying like a soaring bird's wings, maybe 500 feet long. The 3 were separated like stars moving independently. The oval shapes were not connected but close together and moving in unison in a pattern maybe 2,000 feet long. I think I hit on something important here. I hope you recognize what I just presented to you. Over a dozen articles from right around Wordsmith. Fact. So I just presented to you Taos City, Oscoda, Greenbrush, and there's Wordsmith. This whole area, friends. That whole area. When Garland took off, he disappeared. Not one remnant of his craft or him was ever found. How could you not, as an investigative body, look at what I just presented to you and say, that's pretty odd? Coupled with the absolute fact another Air Force jet took off just north of here and flew over Lake Superior chasing a UFO reported by Canada. And when those two got together, they both disappeared and neither one was ever found. How can you discount all this? Please tell me. I appreciate you being here. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything other than I want to open some people's eyes. Because we're looking at something that has been happening for probably thousands of years. Literally. The real question is, what are they doing with us? Do they need our souls? Do they need body parts? What is going on here? People have been disappearing for thousands of years. What is happening? You can watch my first three movies, Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, Missing 411 The UFO Connection on Tubi, Tubi. They're free. Watch them. Fourth movie, Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State. It's on Apple TV and Amazon right now. And then my other movie that just came out 4 months ago, American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Legend, on Amazon as well. Please watch them. Leave a comment here. I hope you found it interesting. Again, I was blown away when I found it. And there's way more out there. I just don't have the time to read them. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides and Huck out.